Hello and welcome. My name is William Kharivi. I'm the Events and Communications Specialist for Commute Seattle. I have the pleasure of moderating today's webinar. Before we get started, let me introduce Commute Seattle to those who don't know us. So Commute Seattle is a nonprofit that serves over 200,000 workers citywide. Through our partnerships with employers, properties, destinations, public agencies, and community organizations, we help people shift to sustainable transportation options and comply with state and city regulations, including Washington's commute trip reduction law and the City of Seattle's Transportation Management Program. Commute Seattle's mission is to make it easy for everyone across Puget Sound to walk, ride, or roll to Seattle's opportunities. We envision a region where affordable and sustainable options are the best way for everyone to connect to the important places in their lives. Commute University is a new series of programs designed to inform and inspire employee and building transportation coordinators, any champion of transportation benefits to level up their programs. In this series, you'll learn from a broad range of panelists about resources and strategies to help your team get to where they need to go without needing to drive alone. Commute University topics and schedules are responsive to emerging needs, including construction impacts, major events, and new transportation infrastructure. Past lessons include how to start a van pool and how to be a bike champion at your work site. And with that, I'm excited to turn over to our program. School is in session. Today's lesson is all about how to motivate your employees and tenants during the big dark, the wet winter season. Today's presenters are Zarina Infante, the program director for Commute Seattle, and Kelly McGowan, the employee transportation coordinator for Methuen. As program director, Zarina leads our commute trip reduction program, helping over 400 work sites and buildings provide programming and resources to meet their drive alone target. Um, and as employee transportation coordinator, Kelly has been working with us at Methuen. If you have any questions for Zarina or Kelly as they are presenting, be sure to put them in the Q&A feature. Following the presentation, we'll have Q&A and look ahead to more opportunities from Commute Seattle. Today's program should wrap up by 10:45 a.m. Attendees will receive a recording of the event and it will be available on our website for reference. Now I will turn it over to Zarina.
Thanks, William. So diving right in, I'm going to start with talking about why encourage active commuting. In our 2024 commuter survey, we learned that active commuters are the most satisfied with their commutes to work. When we say active commuting, if you don't know, we mean those of us walking, rolling, taking transit to work, whether it's for the whole trip to and from work or a part of it. What you're seeing here is the Net Promoter Score for each commute mode. We asked survey respondents to rate their commutes, and based on the question, how satisfied are they? Or how, excuse me, if they would recommend their commute to others. On the far right, you'll see that in red is biking and the light blue is walking. They scored the highest. So our most satisfied commuters are walking and biking to work. The opposite end, represented by the black bar, are those who drove alone. And although 25% of CTR employees indicated that they drove alone to work, they are not happy about it. So they were at least the least satisfied with their commutes. So by considering how we can support safety, create comforts, and with a little extra encouragement, which I will go over later in this webinar, we can positively impact people during the darker and wetter time of year because the commute tends to set the tone of our day. So, looking at the first bullet, I've talked a little bit about satisfaction. Bike commuters are the happiest commuters. Second, we have affordability and sustainability. Low cost and carbon-free commuting options lower transportation emissions for our entire city and region. Third is we attract and retain talent. 99% of CTR affected work sites in Seattle offer some type of active transportation benefit, whether that's subsidizing a transportation pass or providing some sort of reward for taking another mode other than driving alone to work. Next slide, please. Waiting for it to turn. All right. So don't let the big dark be a big return to cars. As winter and darkness descend, it can be tempting to switch to warm, dry cars. Someone who ferries, buses, and walks every day to work, yes, it is very tempting to be in a warm, dry environment. Um, because once you break that habit, it can be very challenging to switch back to your active commute. And lastly, you can encourage public transit as the backup plan, as a strategy to get folks to stay walking and rolling to work. You can bring your bike on the bus, light rail, and ferries, or perhaps bikes can be allowed to stay in your bike room overnight if there is an emergency and they have to take another form of transportation. So with that, I will pass it to Kelly.
Thanks, Serena. I'm Kelly. My pronouns are she, her. And I am the employee transit coordinator and then, as the main part of my job, the HR coordinator for Mithun. We are an integrated architecture and design firm in Seattle. We do everything from buildings to the landscape to the interiors and even some like urban design and planning. So we actually touch transit sometimes in our projects as well. I feel like I have to start by saying that the bike culture at Mithun was thriving long before I arrived, so I can't take credit for anything that I'm going to talk about today, but always here to pump it up. So on the October CTR survey, we ended up winning Commute Seattle's Bike Award. We had 15% of our employees commuting by bike in October when the survey was conducted. So the Big Dark had already started, and we still had a really large, really passionate group of bikers represented. And I feel like that passion is really demonstrated by that net promoter score that Serena talked about. Our net promoter score for biking is almost twice as high as any of our other modes. Next slide. So at its core, so Mithun, there's a lot of factors I think that contribute to our high number of bikers. Some of those things are things that were deliberately implemented, and some are things that just sort of happened organically. At its core, we are a mission-driven firm. We put a lot of emphasis on sustainability and social equity and even on transit access in our projects. So it's really natural that a lot of our employees then carry those commitments over into their personal lives and their commuting habits. Something that is a less controllable thing, we have an amazing location. We're actually on Pier 56. So with the new waterfront revitalization project, we have lots of beautiful new bike trails and bike lanes nearby that make our bikers' commutes a lot easier and more enjoyable. Being on the pier, parking is also extremely limited both on and around the pier, and it's very expensive. So it's kind of natural that employees look for alternate commute methods and that we encourage people not to use drive-alone commute methods. On the more deliberate, practical side of things, we've remodeled our office over the years. We've been in this building for 25 years now. So as we've redone the office, we've put in dedicated bike parking, locker room and shower facilities, including an all gender and mobility aid accessible one. Those locker areas also contain things like hair dryers and clothes steamers and some extra towels, so that people don't have to worry about keeping like an entire bathroom or closet worth of stuff at the office or carrying it with them as they're biking in. I do think that in like the rainy season, especially, those facilities are probably the number one thing that keeps people continuing their active commutes, even the bus and walk occasionally like to, blast the hems of our jeans with the hair dryer when we get in because nobody wants soggy jeans all day. Um, on that note, we're also pretty flexible with schedules. I know it's not possible in every workplace. We're lucky that in ours we can be pretty flexible. We encourage most people to keep sort of standard 9 to 5 type office hours, but HR isn't, coming over and scolding anybody if they're starting at 9:15 because they needed to take a quick shower and grab something warm to drink after their very cold bike ride in. Um, Something else I think that keeps a lot of people moving is we offer active commute incentives. So if people complete at least 10 round trip active commutes in a month, they can retroactively self-report those. It's completely optional if they want to. And then they get a little incentive after they report. The nice thing about that is that if they're choosing, let's say, like an REI gift card as their incentive, that can actually help offset some of the maintenance costs for things like the continued bike riding. Those active commute incentives are also mentioned on day one for new hires when we mention all of our other transit benefits, like our Orca passport cards. So people know from the time they start that Methuen like loves and supports biking, and they're encouraged to do that. I will say that love for biking is definitely very obvious year round in our office. There are constantly people arranging to take rides together, swapping favorite trails, figuring out happy hours, helping with little like, repairs and things like that. There's also a big increase in our number of bike commutes every year during Bike Everywhere Month because everyone likes participating. We also have to encourage people to kind of participate. We have office bikes available to borrow. So it's great if people want to do like a casual lunchtime ride, or they want to try their commute for a couple days before committing to like completely gearing themselves up with their personal funds. Or, if a personal bike, bursts a tire or something, you can take a Methuen bike home for the evening. That's totally fine. If we're talking about like building and maintaining a bike culture, obviously, I think everybody realizes it's probably best to do that when the weather is nice. If there's things like a few little like low stakes summer happy hour rides or like a little daily mileage challenge when the weather is really nice, maybe that seed's planted. And then when it's 45 degrees and soggy outside, somebody might be willing to do their rides anyway because, well, I've been doing it and it's not that bad and I can shower at work. Um, I think, like I've said, ultimately, no matter where you are, bikers are a really passionate group. At Methuen, we kind of let our bikers create and grow their own version of an internal community. They have, a Zoom chat, and they really come up with ideas and everything on their own. But then we sort of listen to them and listen to their needs and their desires, and we put that infrastructure in place to help them make their commutes easier and more practical. I think that structure and that company support are really important, but when you really look at it, the most successful kind of internal communities are really at their core driven by the people that are part of the community. So if you can encourage those communities to form and then just help them when they need help, that's great. Another kind of community aspect and something that ties back into Methuen's very mission-driven focus. I know our Methuen bikers are super, super proud of their participation in the Bike MS Challenge fundraiser for the last 3 years. All three of our offices, Seattle, San Francisco, and LA, have participated the last 3 years. And this last year in 2025, we raised almost $9,000 for the National MS Society. So that's something that they're super, super proud of. Community and charity are great ways to get people involved. We can go to the next slide. So I love this picture. This is one of our architects on his way home one day. The picture was taken by another one of our architects while he was stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. I think Sean the biker did beat the car architect home that day. So it's a perfect example of why active commuting can actually be great in multiple ways. I was asked if I could give any advice to other ETCs. So I think number one is don't forget your active commuters who aren't bikers. We hear Commute Seattle talk about like our bikers, walkers, and rollers. Those walkers, skateboarders, people who ride scooters, they also need places to freshen up and stash their things or, charge their electric scooters. At Mithun, all of these groups are included in the active commute incentives, and I know that like some of our scooter crew are in the bike chat, swapping advice, getting help with repairs and things like that. So make sure they're involved too. Number two, and I would say probably like my main piece of advice, both as an ETC and an HR person, as well as like leaning into my background as a marketing copywriter, is figure out what your employees respond to and then lean into that. If you are a place where no one reads their emails, they're always on the go, they've always got their phone in their hand, maybe your best way of communicating things is flyers with QR codes near the bike parking area or the showers. Those might get a little bit more traction because it's an easy snap of things that they can read. You can even be a little silly if that's what gets attention. I like to give the example of during the push last year for the big CTR survey, I absolutely used pictures of cute animals riding public transit during my staff meeting announcement. I could tell that people were paying attention because every time my slide changed to a new cute animal picture, I could hear all of the giggles around me. And I was like, okay, I know people are paying attention. Maybe I'll get some responses. Mithun is also a super food motivated office, like wildly food motivated, and we're really competitive. So things like hosting a lunch and learn event where we also provided the food, and talking about participation in the Bike MS fundraiser challenge. It drew a great crowd. We had a few newbie bikers sign up to participate. People want to compete, people want food, always things that are going to motivate our Mithunis. Our yearly Bike Everywhere Month competition gets even our infrequent bikers participating. Everyone wants their team to win. And despite the fact that we are all professional adults, everybody wants to put their little shiny star sticker on the chart that's in our main hallway. Adults love stickers. It's silly, but they do. The things work for my adult employees just like they work for my mom's preschool classroom. Stickers win every time. So yeah, figure out what your employees like, lean into that, figure out how to motivate them. If I'm looking toward the future and the future of, active commuting and things at Mithun, I think our bikers have already created a lot of really great support systems and resources within their group. And I would love to be able to help them formalize some of those resources. One of our architects used to work as a bike repair guy. So he often lends his tools and his skills and his advice to our other bikers, for helping them fix their personal things. I would love to use his knowledge to help maybe create like an office in-house bike repair kit that has, the most common tools and the most common supplies that the bikers need so that they're always there if people want them. We could potentially have him do some restarting of like, come learn how to fix your own bike sessions and kind of sponsor those. We've also in the past created sort of like City 101 guides for incoming summer interns, people who are newer to the city, getting to know the area. And I think it would be great to use those bikers' knowledge and maybe create something like that for new hires. What are your favorite trails in the area? Where are the best repair shops nearby? If you're commuting from these neighborhoods, what are your tips about, go this way, not that way, even though it seems less obvious? I think sometimes those new hires or those new bikers can be intimidated to jump into such a lively, active community. And some of those resources would make like a nice little easier entry point for some of the people who are a little bit more reluctant. So yeah, that's kind of what I have for you today. Like I said, Mithun bike culture is super passionate. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I'm really just hoping that we can continue to support them and really encourage people to participate even more. Maybe we'll see that 15% bump up even higher on the CTR survey next year.
Thanks, Kelly. So back to me. First things first, so while we're here to help you all empower pedestrians and cyclists, it's important to note that the legal responsibility for their safety lies with the drivers. It's the responsibility of drivers to drive with care and look out for pedestrians and cyclists on roads, sidewalks, and all intersections. For pedestrians and cyclists, this means staying seen is necessary to stay safe. This is more imperative in underprioritized communities with less lighting or fewer sidewalks. So how can you support safety? As I go through these next few slides, you'll hear me really just reinforce what Kelly's already talked about, because these are truly the best practices. So first, flexibility. Policies that allow flexibility and is equitable for employees that have a longer commute. As commute distance increases, we know the likelihood for multiple modes and transfers increases. Someone may need to bike to the nearest light rail station, or perhaps they must park at a parking ride and then take the bus. Flexibility especially reduces rushing and stress of being late to work. Second, if you can, consider a guaranteed ride home program. From our survey, we know a huge barrier to active commuting is the what if. What if there's an emergency at home? What if I need to pick up my pet or dependent? Policies that reimburse Lyft or Uber, for example, encourage employees to stay active during their commutes with peace of mind. It helps encourage carpooling. Um, Third, if your employer participates in an Orca business program, King County also has a home free guarantee program, offering each employee up to 8 free trips home per year for emergencies. There is an extensive entire process to apply, so contact us if you want to learn more about how to implement King County's home free guarantee program. Last, but certainly not least, distributing information and gear if you can. The goal here is to make the target behavior more convenient and accessible. By providing resources, we're building awareness, understanding, therefore building confidence and reducing anxiety around commuting in the dark. You're offering positive encouragement when you provide commuters with things like bike lights and reflectors. There are even cost-effective like reflective stickers, and you could put them on helmets, water bottles, anything you can name. And you heard Kelly's stickers work. Um, let's see. If you work downtown, we have wonderful downtown ambassadors. You've probably seen them in their big yellow jackets. They offer a safe walk program. Employees can call a number 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. And a hospitality ambassador will show up within 15 or so minutes. They can wait with you at a bus stop or walk you to your car. So safety covers the journey to and from work. Employees arrive at work, we have the opportunity to create some comforts. Next slide, please. All right. So by offering little comforts, we help remove barriers to walking and rolling to work. It's truly the things that seem little that make a huge difference. Kelly talked about hair dryers, showers if you can, places to hang wet clothes, or lockers to keep dry clothes. Ideally, all of this would be in or near the bike room because yes, active commuters still get sweaty even in the winter. So we've talked about supporting safety and creating comfort. The final thing I will touch on is that extra encouragement. Next slide, please. This is all about rewarding targeted behavior. Material incentives such as hot drinks, treats, recognition, food, like me, I'm very food motivated as well. They're all social influences. You've heard Kelly talk about the community and how much that does influence someone perhaps considering an active commute mode. It just needs that extra push. So encouraging and extra encouragement serves to motivate the targeted by celebrating a shared experience. I guarantee you, ask anyone about their commute to and from work, they'll have a story to tell you. So just talking about the experience on public transit, biking, walking, rolling, um, can really make a big difference. So close with, if you can, consider how you can positively impact the journey to and from work. Going back to my first slide, uh, it truly influences how we show up at work. We know that active commuting helps boost energy and can really make a difference in how we arrive. It doesn't look like we got any questions in the Q&A. And we are at time. So perhaps we can just do one. Kelly, how do you address safety concern for employees who walk or bike in the dark, wet conditions?
Yeah, I would say like being in the architecture design fields, there's already a lot of safety consciousness very present in our office. We obviously always encourage people, we do have the guaranteed rides home if people need it. If somebody forgets their reflective gear, they can go grab a safety vest from the closet where we keep them for like site visits and things. I think it's something that people in our office very much promote themselves more than we actively promote it. But I'm now after looking at your slides, I'm thinking like maybe we need to do some like Methuen branded reflectors or something. I feel like those would go over very well with people. So I'm gonna file that away as a possibility for some of those future incentives, maybe.
Love that. I know people love to represent.
I really do, especially here.
Awesome. Okay, y'all. For those of us here, or thank you so much for joining. I'm going to close with just one plug. Would you mind muting?
Uh, yeah, um, Zarina, thank you so much. My audio problems have been solved miraculously. I really appreciate the patience from everyone. And thank you, Zarina, for taking over, and thank you, Kelly, very much. Just move on to the next slide here. I believe this is the plug that you were talking about, Serena. Thank you. So, this upcoming Thursday at Bell Street Park, from 4 to 6 p.m., we are having our annual Light Up Your Trip event. This event is to promote visibility and safety for people walking, rolling, biking, and waiting for transit during the big dark. There will be free giveaways, like safety vests, reflectors, lights, and there will be our partner organizations there like Lime, Wambi, the Seattle Department of Transportation, King County Metro, Sound Transit, and more. Additionally, there'll be free hot drinks for the first 100 people who attend from Bloom Coffee. So really hope you all can make it to our event this coming Thursday. Additionally, we have an Orca Businesses Program information session that will be virtual over Zoom, and that takes place next Wednesday at 11 a.m. We would love for you to join us to learn more about um, the programs we offer through Orca to our businesses throughout downtown and the surrounding Seattle area. So if you have any questions, please contact us at info@commuteseattle.com and feel free to scan this QR code to learn more about our events. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.